Welcome to Awakenings in Real Life, where we tell inspiring stories of transformation, meaning, and hope. While we typically think of an awakening as a getting up or something religious or spiritual in nature, it's also a recognition, realization, or awareness of something. We're going to share stories of people triumphing over loss, illness, addiction, trauma, bullying, near-death experience, and more. Please enjoy. This is Dan Cohn, and welcome to Awakenings in Real Life. Our first guest is Bryan Lee, known as Bullseye The Clown. Should I call you Bull or Mr. I?
You can call me whatever you want to.
Okay. So let me just introduce you to the audience. Bullseye the Clown is a humanitarian, author, and social entrepreneur who has transformed personal trauma of being bullied into a global mission of compassion. As the founder of Clowns on a Mission, Bryan serves vulnerable communities across continents, delivering resources and hope to those who feel forgotten. His journey from bullying victim to international advocate has resulted in the book Bullseye On Bullying, Your Blueprint for Beating the Bullies, and the upcoming Be the Someone, Take Action in a World That Waits. Through his unique approach of combining humanitarian aid with the healing power of joy and human connection, Bullseye demonstrates that everyone, regardless of background or circumstances, can become a catalyst for meaningful change in the world. So, Bullseye, before we go into the questions, can you describe to the listening audience your appearance today?
Well, let's see. I have a little, like a derby hat on that's got a little bit of red and white, like diamonds around the brim, with a bright yellow feather. I guess it's and a black feather. I have clown makeup on, of course, so I have a little bit of white highlights around my eyes, and I painted on eyebrows. I never understood why women like to shave off their eyebrows and paint them on, because it's very difficult. Of course, I have a bright red nose on, of course, like as most clowns. And then I do have some white highlights right around my, almost like a white goatee, but it's all paint. And then, of course, I'm wearing my Bullseye the Clown name tag with my little shirt that's all yellow and got blue stars and some red jaggeds on it. And, of course, I got a giant clown tie on that you can't really be seen, but it's yellow and white, or yellow and black polka dot tie.
You look great, and I urge anybody listening to go over to YouTube or Spotify, because if there's a episode that you want to watch, this is one of them, because Bullseye makes quite the appearance and just a happy appearance. So I start each episode with the same question. Uh-oh. What was your awakening in real life? Now, I know you've had a number of them, but what was your awakening in real life?
Well, after years of being bullied, not only by classmates, and I also grew up with an abusive alcoholic stepfather. I was really a pretty low point in my life at that point. And then my real father in 2018 had passed away. And so at the age of 47, I remembered seeing a movie years ago called Patch Adams, with Robin Williams. And it was about a doctor. Yeah, it's about a doctor who happened to be a clown. And so I got online and I started searching Patch Adams. I realized, oh, he's actually real. He's a real person. So it was a true story. And so I got onto Patch Adams' website, noticed he was taking a group of clowns. He does missions all over the world, and he was going to Russia. And so I thought, well, okay, I've never clowned before, but I had done stand-up comedy in the past. So I thought, how hard can being a clown be? I found out quickly. And so on a whim, I signed up to go on this 14-day trip to Russia. And we just kind of went into like hospitals and orphanages and drug centers and burn units and all kinds of things. And even before we did our first gig, we were actually on our way to our very first orphanage. And the awakening moment that I had on that trip was the bus came to a bus stop. We were at a stoplight, and there was
Right.
a little stop, bus stop outside. And there was a old woman holding a bag of groceries, and she was standing there with maybe like 10 people, but none of the people were really paying any attention to this woman. And so while we were there, I just kind of pecked on the window, and she looked up and she kind of saw me dressed as a clown, and and she kind of started to wave a little bit, and so I waved a little faster, and then she waved a little faster, and before long, all the clowns on the bus saw what I was doing, so they all turned and they all started to wave at the woman. And then, of
Right.
course, the light changed. And as the light changed, the bus started to pull away. And then we saw the old woman sit down on the little bench there at the bus stop, and she started to cry. Now, why she started to cry, I don't really know. I don't, but in my mind, and the awakening that I had was that in that moment, somebody saw her because she was standing at a bus stop where nobody was paying any attention to her. This could have been the first time she was seen that day, that month, that year. And just in that moment, I realized that as a clown, I had the power to make someone feel seen, even if it was for 30 seconds at a stoplight. That was the first, and then things like that, these awakenings kept happening on this trip that I was not really expecting. And there's a,
That was a beautiful moment because, like you said, who knows what was going on in her life,
Mhm.
and you had the power to brighten her day even for a moment. And like you said, it also gave you the ability because this is really that you weren't a clown before, right?
right,
That
that's correct.
wasn't your career. It was that you learned what you can do and how you can brighten someone's day. So it was an awakening for her and it was an awakening for you.
Yeah, and what's really weird on this trip was, when you're bullied a lot when you're younger, you do your best to try to remain invisible. So you try not to be seen because if you're seen, then people are going to bully you. And so on this trip, the opposite happened. It's like everywhere we went, we were seen. So we were like the spectacle everywhere we went. So there was no way to not be seen. And so in some respects, that was very difficult for me because I spent a lot of my life trying to blend in and to be, kind of go with the flow. So that became a really big awakening for me too, is like, wow, this is kind of, I wasn't sure that I really liked that part of it right away. So it took me some getting used to be seen everywhere we went because we were seen in the subways. We dressed this way at the opera. We went to the opera. we dressed this way, going out to eat in restaurants. And so we were not out of our costumes the entire time. And so, it became very difficult, to be quite honest. So that was kind of an awakening for me is like, wow, what is it like to really be seen by others? Um,
It's a profound 360 from wanting to be unseen to being as visible as you can get. And I'm sure that that had a lot of meaning to you. And can you give me some other examples of how you were bullied when you were, what kind of, I know you briefly mentioned it. You have some other examples and what it did to your self-esteem?
Oh yeah, and like in school, it was during school and high school, it was people pushing me into lockers and calling me names and trying to give you the little wedgies, things like that. And luckily, back in my day, we didn't have like Facebook
I don't
and
think they do
have,
wedgies today. I'm sorry. I don't think they do in our day. They did wedgies. I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
sure young
People probably
people
don't know
today
what they
know what
are. Yeah.
wedgies are.
But yeah, see, back in my day, we didn't have Facebook and social media, so the bullies made
Right.
house calls. They just showed up right at your house and wanted to beat you up or run your underwear up the flagpole, things like that. Um, and so a lot of times, as I mentioned, I tried to become invisible, but on the other hand, what it did was it forced me to kind of become a class clown. When the bullies would come to bully me, I would make a spectacle. I would scream fire. I would get down on the floor and roll around and, try to cause a scene so that it would attract attention to a teacher or to the principal or somebody walking by. And then eventually kind of got to the point where some of the kids were like, that guy's crazy. Don't pick
Stay
on
away
that kid because he's gonna cause a scene. And then I just started to learn different ways to avoid it. If I was always getting bullied at a certain time, then I made sure that I was not there at that particular time. I would change my schedule so that I didn't encounter the bullies when I normally would. So if I was always getting bullied at after third period at my locker, I wouldn't go to my locker after third period. I'd wait till fourth period, or I'd go some other time. And so I kind of learned. But then, of course, I would go home, and then I had an alcoholic stepfather who he would fly off the handle, and so I spent a lot of time in my room trying to avoid that. And so I got pretty clever at trying to trying to hide from him and avoid him. So I didn't really get away from it even like when I got home. So
You had
college,
no safe haven, whether it was
right?
school or home. You got it from both ends. And the interesting is when you said you did these performances to try to hide, so maybe that element somehow manifested itself later in your life when you became a clown for good. So
Yeah.
you took that aspect of it and you, because you had it in you for whatever it was, either to avoid the bully and now it's to help others, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask another thing. What's the does that make sense to you, what I
Oh, it
just
does. Yeah,
said?
yeah, that does. Yeah.
So I found it interesting, and maybe you can explain that you went from being bullying and you chose the name Bullseye the Clown. Any relationship to the word bull and bull in both, or is there another reason why you came up with the name?
Yeah, actually, so I think that when somebody's bullied, people call you names and they do all kinds of things to get to you. So as they're calling you names, it's like they're flinging arrows at you. And then every once in a while, most of the time you just kind of deflect them, but every once in a while, one of those names or one of those comments actually hits the bullseye, so to speak.
Oh,
So that's kind of where that name came from. It really seemed very synonymous with, and so it was a way for me to kind of reclaim my name. So that just for me seemed fitting. Some people might not see it that way, but that was for me. That's
I
kind
think
of
that's very
it.
cool.
Kind of became a way to reclaim my name.
Makes a lot of sense. Now you had another when we spoke earlier, um, an incident in a hospice facility where
Oh
you had
yes.
a sort of awakening as well.
Yeah. So one of the places we stopped was in Russia, was we stopped at a hospice. And, Patch Adams told us we needed to go into every single room. Everybody needed to have laughter and joy. So not to leave any rooms out. So they split the clowns up into different floors because there was like 35 of us. So everybody went to a different floor, a different wing. And so when I got to the very last room, the doctors told me, oh, no, no, you can't go into that room. And I'm like, well, why can't I? And they're like, there's a woman in there. Her name is Helena. She's very violent. Nobody ever visits her. She's very angry. So if you go in there, she'll cuss at you. She'll throw things at you. You don't want to go in there. And so I thought, well, Patch Adams told us we're supposed to go into every single room. And so when the doctor kind of walked away, I thought, well, she's on hospice. So I'm thinking if she throws something, how hard could she possibly throw something? I'm
Right.
sure I could duck. And if she cusses at me in Russian, I don't even know Russian. So I only speak English. So I don't know what she's saying anyway. So I thought, well, how hard could this be? So I just kind of slowly pushed the door open, and because I wasn't really, I hadn't really clowned before. I had bubbles with me. So that's kind of what I did. I just started blowing bubbles into the room, and then I just slowly kind of followed the bubbles in. And when I walked in, I see that she was actually not even looking at the door. She was looking out the window. And so I just slowly kept approaching and blowing bubbles. And then eventually a bubble kind of floated across her face. And she kind of had a look, and she turned to look. Then, of course, I'm standing there. At this time I had these big antlers on my head and I had red nose. And I looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed
Right.
Reindeer. And so I like froze like in position ready for her to throw something. And she kind of just gave me like a really strange look. And then she patted the bed for me to come over and sit down. And so I went over to the bed and I sat down and I was trying to get her to blow bubbles. And of course, when you can't speak Russian and she can't speak English, and so it just became like this big pantomime. I would kind of pantomime how to blow a bubble. So I blew the bubbles and I gave it the wand to her and she tried to blow and then maybe like one little bubble came out. And I'm like, oh no, no, you need more bubbles. You need more bubbles. Blow harder. And so she tried to blow a little bit harder, maybe like two bubbles. I'm like, no, 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 no. Really blow and really blow. And so she took a deep breath and she blew out and all these bubbles filled the room, but then her teeth flew clear across the room. And so, so I went looking for her teeth, and as I'm looking for her teeth, she busted out laughing. She started laughing so loud, and I'm like, "Be quiet! I'm not even supposed to be in here." And so I'm over there looking for the teeth, and about the time I found these teeth and picked them up, and I found them. That's when the doctor walked into the room, and he was like looking at me and looking at her, and she was laughing, and he said he'd never heard her laugh. Nobody ever visited her, and so what I realized that is even through like my own pain, that I had this ability to be able to reach people, whether I could speak their language or whether I couldn't. It was just, again, making somebody feel seen. And, I don't know how much longer she lived after I left, but at least before
Gave
she
her
passed,
mind.
at least before she passed, she had a good laugh. She saw a clown or she was visited by somebody. And who knows, maybe she thought I was death coming to visit her. I have no idea.
No, no, I'm sure if anything, the opposite. But as I always say, bubbles is the universal language. So
Bubbles and balloons. Yes, they all love the bubbles and the
bubbles
balloons.
and balloons. So this is a two-part question.
Uh-oh.
What was it like being with Patch Adams? We all remember that great movie with Robin Williams. What was it like being with him? And number two, how do you become a clown? Is it just these natural inclinations? Did you do clown school? How do you make your art?
Okay. Well, okay, I'll tackle the first one first. So, um, when I went to the first trip with Patch Adams, it was kind of one of those moments where you're in awe. So I tried not to like, talk to him too much and try to be, but, he's very personable. Also very opinionated. So if he doesn't like something, he will let you know. But like I said,
That's
he's very,
right.
but for the most part, he's very, very positive. And, he's a lot the movie was very tame compared to compared to what he was in real life. So if you thought the movie was pretty wild, he's actually probably twice as bad as those. But no, his whole thing is he just loves to have fun. That's what he uh, years ago when he was in a mental institution and was ready to commit suicide, he just made a vow that he was not going to live life that way, and that he was going to find the joy in life, and he was going to live every single day with joy. And that's what he does. He always walks around with a pocket full of toys, because he never knows who he's going to encounter. He always wears colorful clothing, and so yeah, no, he
He
was
had his
very much
own
an inspiration.
awakening.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. He had his own awakening.
absolutely. And so yeah, and so I actually after that tour, I actually went on other tours with him. I went to Morocco and to Mexico and to Costa Rica. And so as I went on other tours, actually, in Morocco, we got stuck in, both airports a lot. So actually I got to talk to him a lot in the airports, and we clowned around in the airports because, I mean, anytime there's people, there's an opportunity to clown. That's,
Right,
and so,
right.
we clowned in the airports. And so I kind of got to know him more, as we, especially on Morocco, because there was a lot of airport time that we spent, probably
Sure.
4 or 5 hours in the airports. And then the second question, I wish I had taken some kind of a clown course or something before I went, to Russia, because I was just kind of thrown in. So a lot of that stuff was just instinct. And Patch Adams is always about, and really, it's not about trying to be funny. It's just trying to, change your mind, to look at things a little differently. He's like, I mean, sometimes he would challenge us, walk into a room with nothing. Don't plan what you're going to do. Walk in and find something on the table, a banana, pick up the banana and hello, and pretend like it's a telephone, or find other
Right.
uses of things in the room, like, like an apple, maybe think the apple is, juggle the apples or whatever. So I really wish I had taken some after I got done with the first trip. I did go back and start going to like, clown camp, and there's Mooseburger clown arts camp. And so I started going back to learn like makeup, because even on the first trip, I didn't do makeup, and a lot of clowns didn't do makeup.
Oh,
But I wanted to do some makeup. And so as I went to these different classes, I took what I liked from one clown, and then I took like what I liked from another clown. And so I just kind of created my own look based on, one, I'm lazy. So I didn't want makeup that was going to take forever. The first couple of times I tried makeup, it took me like an hour and a half. And I'm like, I don't want to get up an hour and a half early to do a podcast, or to go clown, to get my makeup on. So I got this down to about 20 minutes. So,
oh,
um,
you're a pro.
yeah,
You're a
so
pro.
I'm a pro. I'm a pro now. And then of course I learned how to. I still haven't juggled, but then I learned how to do some balloons. and be able to do balloon animals and things like that. And then I just found things that I can do. I found these little chickens online that are like slingshots, and so I do a lot of play. So I'll go in and I play, and I'll have them play. So and it doesn't matter if they're children or adults, because adults as we get
Yeah.
older, we forget how to play. And so
Uh-oh.
yeah, so it's just kind of like teaching them how to play again and connect with their inner child, and have some fun.
I guess you have to be a little bit of a natural to do what you do.
Not
So,
really. I mean, I have people who, now I have started my own clown tours, and so whenever I take people on my own clown tours, I will take something for them just in case. Like usually, like temporary tattoos that are very simple to do, just to kind of ease them in. So, and then sometimes, like what I noticed in some of our trips, the clowns who didn't really know what they wanted to do, they would sit into a corner, and then the kids would just automatically walk up, and they might sit on their lap and want to hug, and they might just sit there and talk to the child or hug the child, or just kind of sit there in
right,
silence, or whatever. So everybody kind of has their own little way of reaching children. So sometimes it's with a puppet, sometimes it's like by playing like I do, or sometimes it's by just being silent. So everybody has the ability to do it. Actually, I really wish more people would do it.
right. So I want to ask you about both your books quickly. The first book is Bullseye on Bullying, your blueprint for beating the bullies. Why don't you tell quickly, what is that blueprint for beating the bullies? It's not for everybody to dress up as a clown, but what is your what is your advice to kids that are going through it today, or parents that are listening or watching this? Because so many children get bullied. And obviously other people in life too get bullied. But what is that blueprint in a quick nutshell?
Well, like I said, I mean, it's different for everybody. And like I said, that's what I put in the book. What happened for me is what I did is not necessarily going to work for you, but I talked to a lot of other people who went through it. And I already briefly alluded to some of it. Like one of the things I did was I started remapping my day. I started, avoidance, because I'm not a confrontational person by nature. So I don't like to confront people. So I didn't really want to like get into a fight with the bully. Um, and then of course I was talking to one little girl before I released the book, and she said, one of the things she does is she agrees with everything the bullies say. So like if the bully tells her, that shirt is ugly. Oh, you're right. This shirt is ugly. I told my mom and then they say, your hair is a mess. Oh, I know I did. And she would agree with, and so after a while, they're like, they couldn't upset her. And so when they couldn't upset her, they just kind of lost interest, and they thought they'll just go into somebody else. Um,
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so I thought that was a very interesting take on her. And then one of the big things I would say is bullies like to attack people who are not aware of what's going on. If you're a person who tends to kind of walk around with your head down, maybe with your looking at a book or looking at your phone or something and not really paying attention,
Right.
that's when they like to pounce. So I always say, make sure you're aware of your surroundings at all time. You know, just even if you don't feel confident, walk like you're confident. Just walk with your head held high, your chest up, and walk, and make sure you're able to see what's happening around you. A lot of times I didn't. I for whatever reason felt inferior to everybody else, and so I tended to walk a lot with my head down. So a lot of it is just perception.
Bullies
Walking.
like to pick on people that appear weak. Am I
Absolutely. So I
right?
say walk in groups. So even if you don't have friends, just find a group who happens to be walking, and as long as they're not bullies and going to bully you, just kind of walk with them, because they're not going to bully you in a group, because bullies are kind of chickens, and so they're not going to bully you if there's a bunch of people around. They want to wait till you're all by yourself. So those are some of the things. And then of course, when it comes to cyberbullying, not everybody in the world has to be your friend. I should probably have 10,000 Facebook friends. I have maybe 1,000. I don't accept everybody. The first thing I do is I go and I look through their page, their Facebook page. If I don't like
You're going
stuff,
to accept me, Bullseye. Am I right when I friend you?
oh, let me look at your Facebook page and see what's on there.
Okay.
But typically, I mean, I'll look, and if I see like a bunch of like posts about you, like talking about people or belittling people, then I just
Um,
won't really accept it. I'll click decline. And that's why I never joined Twitter. I mean, I joined Twitter a couple of times, and then with Twitter, you don't really have the ability to like block people like you can like on Facebook or Instagram. So, I tend to stay on platforms where I can control who is posting on my groups and who is posting on my page, because I look at it that this is my little section, and I don't have to be friends with everybody. Um, not everybody has to like me, and that's okay. But I also don't need to
I want
hear
you to
about it.
like me. I want you to like me and become my Facebook friend. So I
Okay,
won't be
okay.
anywhere
I'll
from
Facebook
that.
you.
So your upcoming book, Be the Someone, Take Action in a World That Waits. You challenge people to move beyond just feeling compassion to actually take action. What's the biggest barrier you see that stops people from taking the leap from caring to doing? That's a very interesting topic as well.
It is, and how that book really came about was, after traveling with Patch Adams so much, um, one of the things that I wished we had done on a lot of those trips was that we would leave something behind. So, like with Patch, of course, we did. We saw people, and we showed caring, and we played, and we made people visible. But I was like some of these children in the orphanages, boy, they could have used some food, or they could have used some shoes, and I'm like, well, I really wish we left something behind, and so. I wanted to do a tour where we did that. And so that's why I started Blank Clowns on a Mission. And that's kind of what this book kind of talks about is how I saw a need. So I found somebody who lives part time in Guatemala, and she said, boy, we really could use some help down here. And so we just started by buying backpacks, 200 backpacks filled with school supplies. We took them into Guatemala. We handed those out to poor school children who could not afford to go to school. And so we got 200 children into school. Well, while we were there, we realized all these children were hungry. And then I'm like, well, somebody should buy them food. And she's like, well, we're here. Why don't we buy it? I'm like, well, how much is food? Because I was ready to do backpacks. That's all I was planning to do. I didn't want to do. And then we realized like 200 pounds of corn cost $50. And then like 200 pounds of rice cost us $100. So we bought like 400 pounds of food, and we started packaging it all up. And then everywhere we went, we started handing out food as well. And so I think the biggest barrier, one, is that a lot of people think, oh, wow, I surely am not the first person who's thought of this. So I'm sure there's some other company out there who's actually taking food to these people, or there's surely somebody out there. And then the other barrier is I'm only one person. How much can I really accomplish? What I can accomplish is just a drop in the bucket to the need that's out there. But we just happened to be in Guatemala. We saw that there was people who needed food. We fed maybe 200, 300 people, while we were there. Yes, it's just a drop in the bucket, but it was very, very important to those 300 people that we fed that year. And then we've gone back this year again. This time we decided to do a food truck. So we made food and we handed it out to 200 families. And then we also went to the store and we bought bags of groceries to hand out to another 200 people. So it was just, we figure it out. And so I think a lot of times a lot of people are afraid of making mistakes, but the only mistake I find is not taking action to begin with.
I think that's a great philosophy. And it's interesting, just relating to my own life for a second. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. And if you interview 100 people on the street, there are 100 people think they have the greatest idea. Or like you said, people have ideas, but they don't do. And maybe 1 out of 100 will go into a business idea they have. So what I always tell friends and family is that dreamers aspire to, entrepreneurs do. And that's a difference. Like you said, you're a doer. It's important to do, and don't worry about if someone else is doing it or someone hasn't done it. The important thing is to do. And I think that's wonderful. And that really brings me to my next question is, and I think you've described it, the Clowns on a Mission. Is it mainly an overseas type of situation? Do you do it here in the United States? How can people find you there? How can people find your books if they want to get in touch with you? So if you can share that with the audience.
Yeah, so the Bullseye on Bullying book is on Amazon. I haven't released the other one yet, so I'm hoping to have that released by Christmas time. But that'll also be available on Amazon. As far as Clowns on a Mission, we do have a website, clownsonamission.com. We are taking another group of people to Guatemala in February and also hopefully October next year. And so you can sign up on the website if you would like to also go on that trip. Or if you'd like to learn more about that trip, you can go to the website, click on the little Guatemala tab, and it kind of tells you exactly what we do. And we're also even offering like a virtual tour. So for people who cannot just pack up and go for a week to Guatemala, for $97, which will actually feed a family for a month, that'll give us, so we're going to actually do like $97 virtual tours where we actually will log in every single day while we're there on our way there. We'll give you updates on what we're doing, where your money is going, what families we're feeding with, the money that you give us, and the entire time we're gone, you'll get live updates from us on that trip. And right now, I haven't done a lot of Clowns on a Mission work here in the United States, only because I find that with the amount of donations that we're currently getting, our money goes so much further in Guatemala. And like I said, there's just certain places there. There are some people who live in the landfill in Guatemala that we visit every time we go. They just found stuff in the landfills to build homes. And so we definitely go there, take them food. They don't even have electricity there. So, everything is, they're cooking, by a fire and things like that. So
I understand.
And I would like to go other places. So like I said, it's just things are so much more expensive here in the United States as far as like even getting like hotels for the clowns and things like that. And so it's like, we don't want to spend a lot of our resources, just on the clowns being there. We want to spend that money on actually serving the communities that we're going to.
Well, my suggestion is if you could get the support, make a bigger bullseye and spread your mission here in the United States as well, because it's a terrific one. I think you got a courageous story. Really, to me, you've shown a tremendous amount of courage to what you've went through in your life to turn it in such a humanitarian mission. And there should be more people like you in this world, and continue to do what you do. And I appreciate you very much being on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll speak soon. And take a look for my Facebook friend request.
I definitely will. I'm looking right now.
Okay. All right, Bryan. Take care. Be
You
well.
too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you for listening or watching this episode. If you enjoyed our guest, please go to our website, awakeningsinreallife.com, where our guest shares a story different than their awakening. It's really very interesting. We also have bonus episodes where another individual tells their awakening story. Please also check out my book, Awakenings in Real Life, where I tell the story of my dad's awakening from his dementia and the message he sends that he still lives and appreciates life. It's available on Amazon, pre-sale, and also tells other family stories. If you know of someone who wants to be a guest on the show and has an awakening, please email me at info@awakeningsinreallife.com. We're also available on social media. Please tune in to our next episode where we share another remarkable awakening story. Finally, I want to thank Jay Belsky of Flawed Media of Rockville Center, New York, who did such a great job recording this episode.